The stars above Earth were calm that night. From space, the planet looked peaceful, glowing cities, quiet oceans, and silent orbits filled with human-made satellites and stations. For decades, Earth had grown comfortable, reaching beyond its atmosphere with confidence. Space was not a place of war anymore. It was exploration, communication, and expansion. Colonies on Mars and Titan had begun to thrive. The moon hosted scientific labs and civilian stations. Humanity believed they were ready for the galaxy, and with no signs of alien life after years of scanning, most believed they were alone. The fear of invasion belonged to old movies and forgotten books. But that illusion died when the first orbital station went silent. At first, Earth's command center thought it was a power failure. It wasn't rare for older satellites to lose contact. But then the second one vanished, and then the third, no signals, no alerts, no signs of distress. It was as if they had been erased. Within minutes, Earth's orbital grid collapsed. Every satellite above the planet blinked out in perfect sequence, like falling dominoes in the sky. Chaos hit the ground. Global communications failed, military networks were cut off, and the skies filled with fear. Before anyone could understand what was happening, the first strike hit. A massive beam of light, silent, colorless, and fast, ripped through Earth's upper atmosphere and hit a city near the equator. In an instant, the buildings turned to ash. No sound came before the impact. There were no warnings. Just light. And then nothing. People screamed. Military jets scrambled, but they had no targets. The enemy was unseen, the attack invisible to radar. Then another city vanished, this time on the other side of the planet. The message was clear. Earth was under attack, and the enemy wasn't looking for negotiation. They had come to erase. Governments tried to respond, but without satellites, global coordination was lost. Leaders argued, radios buzzed with static, and panicked messages flooded surviving channels. Emergency forces were dispatched, but they had no idea what they were fighting. The attack was like a ghost. It came from the sky, left no debris, and killed without warning. Civilians ran for underground shelters, but even those proved unsafe as the beams pierced deep into the earth. In a few hours, billions were dead. Humanity, for all its achievements, had been caught off guard. Far above the chaos, hidden in the dark side of Earth's moon, the alien fleet watched in silence. They called themselves the Zerlin Dominion, a species that believed in quiet conquest. To them, humans were just another obstacle in the path of expansion, a primitive species with noisy broadcasts and fragile worlds. The Zerlin didn't believe in war declarations. They believed in swift elimination. Earth was simply their next target. What the Zerlin didn't expect was resistance not from a species so primitive by their standards. But as the hours passed, they noticed something strange. Instead of falling into full chaos, humans began to fight back. Crude as it seemed, jets still launched, cities still tried to organize defenses, and groups of survivors managed to establish backup communications using buried fiber networks and old analog equipment. The Zerlin had attacked many planets before, but none had responded like this. In the ruins of a destroyed command center, a young engineer named Mira Patel managed to restart an emergency satellite relay hidden in the mountains of Alaska. She worked with frostbitten fingers and a broken arm, using parts scavenged from a crashed drone. Alone and in pain, she aligned a makeshift dish toward Mars. The signal was weak, but it reached. On Mars, the human colony hadn't been hit yet. They received the message Earth was under attack, systems were down, cities destroyed, and orbital control lost. The Martian Council, usually focused on science and diplomacy, activated the Defense Act. Ships meant for transport were armed with old weapons. Miners were given rifles. Within hours, a call went out to all colonies: Earth has been attacked. If we don't respond, we're next. Back on Earth, underground bunkers came alive. Hidden command units that had never seen real use were finally activated. Retired generals were called back. One of them, General Marcus Hale, took command of the surviving defense networks. He was old, grizzled, and once considered paranoid for warning about space threats. Now, he was Earth's last hope. From a cold bunker in the Rocky Mountains, he began to piece together what little remained of Earth's defense. Old weapons, prototype railguns, EMP artillery, all systems previously shelved as unnecessary, were now rushed into action. There were no satellites to guide them, but human instinct took their place. Fighter pilots trained on simulators now flew blind in the skies, using gut and memory to strike back. In one battle over the ruins of New York, a squadron of 10 jets faced a single Zerlin scout craft. The human jets had inferior speed and weapons, but they used the terrain. They weaved between skyscraper remains, baited the alien ship into tight alleys, and finally crashed a fuel carrier into it. The explosion was massive, and the pilot didn't survive, but he gave Earth its first kill. That moment was recorded by a news drone and broadcasted to the colonies. For the first time since the attacks began, humans had hope. The Zerlin analyzed the battle and found something concerning. Human tactics made no sense. They didn't retreat when outgunned. They didn't surrender. They adapted fast, too fast for their level of development. The Zerlin were logical, structured, and precise. Humans were chaotic, emotional, and reckless, and that made them dangerous. One Zerlin commander advised full retreat, warning that the human species was behaving in a way that didn't match their data. But the Zerlin High Council refused. They believed Earth was weak and the resistance just a temporary annoyance. They had no idea what was coming. In the ashes of the attacked world, humanity began to awaken. They were not the calm scientists and peaceful explorers the galaxy had assumed. They were the descendants of warriors, survivors of thousands of wars, and builders of impossible machines. As engineers dug out hidden hangars and scientists reactivated old war projects, a new force began to rise from the rubble, a force driven not by conquest, but by vengeance. Humanity hadn't asked for this war, but now that it had come, they would not just fight to survive. They would fight to make sure no species in the galaxy ever dared to strike them again. And so, beneath the shattered sky, with smoke still rising and the enemy watching from above, Earth began to whisper a new promise, a silent vow in every surviving heart. You hit us when we were not ready, but you won't survive what comes next. Deep beneath the ruins of Earth's shattered cities, something powerful was beginning to form, not in the form of armies or fleets, but in the minds of the survivors. The horror of the silent attack had stunned the planet, but it hadn't broken the human spirit. The Zerlin expected fear, collapse, and surrender. But what they got instead was something they had never encountered before: unity born from pain, purpose carved from destruction. Across bunkers, caves, and hidden labs, humans began to organize in ways that defied logic. Without satellites, they used old fiber lines buried deep in the ground. With their communication networks ruined, they returned to analog radios, code relays, and courier drones. All over the world, pieces of forgotten technology were being pulled from dusty storage rooms and repaired by engineers who had once thought their work would never see the light of day. On the icy plains of Siberia, a broken research facility was turned into a weapons lab where scientists repurposed weather control tech into electromagnetic pulse cannons. In the African deserts, solar farms were transformed into energy hubs powering mobile artillery. South American jungles hid experimental tanks coated in adaptive camouflage. The colonies on Mars, Titan, and Europa, shocked by Earth's attack, sent back blueprints for advanced defense grids and fusion-based shields, projects they had never shared with Earth due to political restrictions. Now, all those lines had vanished. There were no borders, no nations, only one species, under one threat. General Marcus Hale worked day and night inside a freezing bunker known only to a few, commanding what was left of Earth's military. Around him were commanders, hackers, mechanics, and volunteers of all ages and backgrounds. They had no sleep, little food, but endless determination. Hale's orders were clear: prepare for the next wave. They knew the Zerlin fleet hadn't sent its full strength. What struck Earth first was a scouting force, fast and precise, but small. If the Zerlin realized humanity could resist, they would return with everything they had. Hale needed time, and he needed a miracle. And in a remote mountain lab in Central Asia, that miracle was taking shape. Scientists had recovered parts of a crashed Zerlin scout ship, the one brought down over New York by a suicidal pilot's final strike. The wreckage was mangled and alien, with technology far beyond human understanding. But among the burned circuits and melted metal, there was one piece left intact, a small power core, still glowing with pulsing blue light. It emitted no heat, no radiation, but its energy readings were off the charts. The scientists, led by a quiet genius named Dr. Lena Morozov, realized this wasn't just a battery. It was a living machine, reacting to human presence, shifting slightly when touched, almost like it could think. Morozov didn't sleep for days. She believed this core was more than just a power source. It was a key, and she was determined to find out what door it opened. Meanwhile, in orbit around Jupiter, the Martian fleet gathered. It wasn't large, just a dozen ships, many still half-fitted with weapons, but it was determined. The Martian governor, once a politician known for speeches and diplomacy, had become a wartime leader. He sent a message across all human colonies: we are not waiting for the next strike. We are going to meet them halfway. The plan was risky and insane by normal standards. But normal had died when Earth burned. The fleet began to move, silent and focused, towards a shadow detected near Saturn's rings, an object that didn't belong, a ship too large, too cold, and too quiet to be anything but Zerlin. They were right. Hidden behind ice and gas, a massive Zerlin carrier ship had taken position, watching the human colonies, preparing its next move. It was bigger than anything the Martian fleet had. But the humans didn't turn away. They activated every weapon, ran manual targeting, and launched a surprise assault that shook the stars. The battle was brutal. Human ships took heavy damage. But their unpredictability worked again. They didn't follow expected tactics, used decoys and gravity to outmaneuver the enemy, and when they finally rammed a small freighter into the carrier's core, the resulting explosion was seen from Pluto. It cost the Martians half their fleet, but they won. And more importantly, they sent a message: we are not afraid. Back on Earth, that victory lit a fire in every survivor. The news spread like wildfire, through scratched recordings and handwritten transmissions. A species once broken was now rising in fury. Rebellion cells formed across Zerlin-controlled regions. Old war veterans trained teenagers. Mechanics built weapons from junk. Cities once burned now became fortresses. And in the middle of this storm, Dr. Morozov made her breakthrough. She had managed to link the Zerlin power core to a human neural interface. The moment it connected, the lab's lights dimmed, and the core began to hum not just with power, but with patterns, signals, sounds. It was responding, adapting almost. Learning. The core began to project images, maps, star charts, data lines, all encoded in ways no one had seen before. But the most shocking part was not what it showed. It was what it didn't. The maps showed Zerlin territory, and right at the edge of it, marked in red, was Earth. But beside Earth, in deep space, there were other red marks, planets that had resisted and vanished. Entire worlds wiped clean. The Zerlin had done this before. But Earth was different. Earth had survived the first blow. And now, the galaxy would see what happened when humans gathered their storm. As the final pieces of a unified defense came into place, Hale gave the order to prepare Project Hades, a last resort system powered by the Zerlin core, designed to fire a reverse energy pulse strong enough to tear a hole through any ship, any shield, any material known. It was untested, dangerous, and might kill the planet if it failed. But Hale knew one thing: if the Zerlin returned, it wouldn't be in silence this time. It would be in full force. And when they came, they would face not a broken Earth, but a storm of resistance, built from the ashes, carried by rage, and fueled by the will of a species that refused to die quietly. When the first alien signal reached Earth, it wasn't a greeting, it was a warning. But the message was so strange, so distorted by static and alien frequencies, that no one on Earth understood what it meant until it was too late. It came from deep space, far beyond the range of human exploration, but it wasn't just a message, It was a pulse of energy that shattered satellites and fried communication systems across half the planet. Scientists called it a cosmic anomaly, a solar glitch, anything to avoid the truth. But deep in the command centers of space observatories and defense networks, a handful of experts already knew what was happening. Earth was not alone anymore, and whoever had sent that pulse wasn't friendly. At first, there was panic, then silence. Then came the ships. They didn't descend in fire or thunder. They slipped into orbit like shadows, dark, sleek, and silent. Dozens of them, cloaked in strange metal, scanning the Earth like hunters circling prey. They didn't broadcast any messages. No demands. The first strike came without warning. A single beam of light, thinner than a needle, sliced through Earth's upper atmosphere and vaporized a defense station in orbit. Nothing survived. The beam wasn't just a weapon, it was a message. And it said one thing: we are stronger. But Earth didn't kneel. The loss was heavy, the fear was real, but humans had something no alien species could fully understand: resilience born from centuries of surviving wars, disasters, and each other. Within hours, Earth's United Defense Command was activated. All major powers set aside their differences and focused on survival. Underground bunkers buzzed to life. Old space programs were restarted. Orbital defenses were brought online. And most importantly, a decision was made that would change history forever. Earth would strike back. The retaliation didn't come from massive fleets or advanced technology. It came from the mind of a young engineer named Kai Morgan. Working from a hidden lab in the Nevada desert, he had developed a prototype weapon, one so unstable and experimental that even Earth's military had refused to fund it. But in desperation, the command authorized its use. Called the gravitic lance, the weapon used compressed gravitational waves to pierce any form of known shielding. The prototype was mounted onto an old space shuttle, and a small crew of volunteers, soldiers, scientists, and one AI was chosen to carry out a suicide mission. Their target was the closest alien ship in low Earth orbit. The shuttle launched in silence, hidden from the alien scanners, using a cloaking system based on distorted magnetic fields. As it approached the alien ship, the tension on the ground was unbearable. No one knew if it would work. No one even knew if the crew would survive. And when the shuttle finally reached striking distance, Earth held its breath. The gravitic lance fired once. The result was immediate and terrifying. The alien ship, previously untouchable, cracked open like glass hit by a hammer. A wave of energy exploded outward, and for the first time, humans saw something they had never imagined. They saw the enemy bleed. Pieces of alien metal and strange organic material rained down into Earth's upper atmosphere. The alien fleet responded instantly, activating new formations, repositioning their ships, clearly shocked that humans had broken through their defenses. But they didn't retreat. Instead, they launched counterstrikes all across Earth's orbit, destroying communication arrays and targeting human bases on the Moon and Mars. The retaliation had worked, but now humanity was at war. What followed were days of chaos and courage. Every country sent whatever ships, drones, or weapons they had. Civilian spacecraft were turned into combat vessels. Scientists became tacticians. Engineers worked without rest to improve Earth's primitive space defenses. Even old museums were raided for parts, anything that could help. Humanity was fighting not with the most advanced tools, but with raw determination and creativity. And as the battles raged above, something strange began to happen. Humans started to learn. Every time an alien weapon fired, scientists studied it. Every time a ship was hit, data was collected. Patterns emerged. Weak points were discovered. And deep within a lab in Norway, a breakthrough was made. One of the captured alien fragments revealed a communication language based on quantum pulses. A translator was developed, and Earth sent a message not of surrender, but of challenge. We are still here. The aliens responded with a different kind of weapon, a psychological one. All across the planet, screens were hacked, devices glitched, and strange images appeared: cities burning, human figures disintegrating, planets being erased from existence. The message was clear: resistance is hopeless. But the tactic backfired. Instead of fear, It ignited rage. Humanity had always lived with fear of nuclear war, climate disaster, disease, but they had always fought back, always survived. The alien attempt to break human morale only made people stronger. More volunteers signed up. Underground labs created new tech energy shields, kinetic armor, plasma rifles. And finally, a bold plan was formed. Earth would not just defend itself. It would take the fight to the enemy. Using coordinates discovered in the debris of the destroyed alien ship, Earth's Defense Command located a relay station in orbit near the moon, possibly a central command node for the alien fleet. If they could destroy it, the rest of the fleet might lose coordination. A new shuttle was prepared, this time larger, stronger, and equipped with upgraded versions of the gravitic lance and human-made particle cannons. It launched with a crew of elite soldiers, including survivors from the first retaliation. As the shuttle approached the station, the aliens launched everything they had. But this time, humans were ready. Dodging beams, using lunar gravity to sling past obstacles, the ship reached the station and engaged in direct combat. The battle was short but intense. The human crew fought inside the alien structure, using brutal close-quarter tactics that shocked the enemy. The mission ended when the pilot manually detonated the core reactor, sacrificing the ship but destroying the station in a brilliant explosion visible from Earth. When the alien fleet began to retreat, Earth finally understood what it had done. In the history of the galaxy, no species had ever resisted the first wave. Humanity had not only resisted, it had retaliated. The cost was high. Cities lay in ruins. Millions were gone. But the sky was clear. And as Earth began to rebuild, a new message was broadcast into space, loud, proud, and human. We heard you the first time. Now hear us never again. The galaxy had many civilizations, and most of them believed they were superior in every way, more advanced, more organized, more evolved than any species that might exist in the uncharted corners of space. So, when humans were discovered living on a blue planet called Earth, no one paid attention. They were considered primitive, barely reaching interstellar travel, still divided by borders and beliefs, and seen as unworthy of being taken seriously by the great galactic powers. That is, until the humans sent a message. It wasn't a peaceful invitation or a plea for help. It was a signal broadcast across frequencies no one thought humans could access. It was a short transmission, scrambled with strange encryption, but it carried a signature pulse behind it, something ancient, something powerful. At first, the Council of Galactic Species ignored it. They believed it to be a technical error, or perhaps a trick. But then the pulse repeated, and this time it shut down 3 listening stations on the edge of the Orion cluster. The signal reactivated long-dead systems, triggered old war protocols from a forgotten age, and even caused a reactor core on a distant mining moon to overload without warning. Whatever was hidden inside that signal, it wasn't simple communication, it was a weapon. The humans had discovered something dangerous, and they were sending a message not just to be heard, but to be feared. Panic spread quickly through the council. Meetings were held in secret chambers. Surveillance on Earth increased. Fleets were sent to scan and analyze the origin of the pulse, but no one could understand how a young race like humans had cracked technology older than most known empires. For decades, ancient ruins scattered across the galaxy remained sealed, filled with forgotten scripts and traps, remnants of a civilization known only as the Architects, long gone but never fully understood. And now, Earth's message contained fragments of that same ancient language. That was impossible. Only a few scholars across the galaxy had even partially deciphered it, and even they admitted it made no logical sense. The Architects weren't just builders, they were engineers of space-time itself. And if humans had truly unlocked even a small piece of that code, it meant they had done what no other species dared to try. Earth had either gotten lucky or had found something buried deep beneath their planet. The Galactic Council dispatched a diplomatic vessel to Earth under the cover of research, hoping to learn more. But the humans were silent. No meetings, no treaties, no explanations. They simply replied with the same message, the same encrypted pulse, now with more power behind it. And this time, the pulse didn't just disable systems, it hijacked them. Entire fleets lost. Navigation. Drones turned against their own ships. Artificial intelligences shut down. For the first time in thousands of years, the most powerful species in the galaxy were helpless, forced to watch as their systems were overridden by a species that had once believed fire was a miracle. Desperation turned to fear. The Council debated launching a preemptive strike, but others warned that Earth might be holding something back. The humans hadn't attacked. They had only warned. And then, a small scout ship captured an old satellite drifting near Earth's orbit, still transmitting in a forgotten code. Inside, they found a simple message, engraved in metal: "This is not a threat. This is a reminder." The phrase sent chills through every translator, every commander, and every leader. It wasn't a demand. It wasn't a bluff. It was a quiet, calculated show of power, one that suggested Earth was in control of something far larger than anyone imagined. That's when rumors began to spread of a secret base beneath Antarctica, of machines buried in Earth's crust pulsing with unknown energy, of a human experiment gone too far. Theories flooded the galactic networks. Some believed Earth had uncovered an architect weapon. Others believed they had become a vessel for the return of the architects themselves. But the truth was far more terrifying. Humans had understood something fundamental about the architect code, something even the most advanced civilizations had missed. They had not just unlocked ancient systems, they had taught them to listen. And now, those ancient systems recognized humans as masters. Earth had become the key. And the message they sent was not a threat of war, but a warning to the galaxy: do not attempt to control what you do not understand. Still, a few proud empires refused to accept this truth. One such empire, the Zorth Dominion, sent a battle fleet toward Earth, determined to prove human weakness. But as their ships entered Earth's solar system, something unimaginable happened. Their systems stopped responding. Time slowed. Light bent. And then, with no sound, their ships vanished, disintegrated, absorbed, erased from existence by something no one could see. Only one transmission made it out: a terrified scream of a captain, whispering, "The stars are watching." After that, the Council sent a final delegation to Earth, not to challenge, but to ask. They came in peace, unarmed, humbled. And finally, the humans responded. A single representative greeted them. She was calm, clear, and spoke in simple words: "We have awakened something. It listens to us now. We will not use it unless forced. Let there be peace." And just like that, the galaxy changed. The message they had once ignored had become a warning they would never forget. Earth, once dismissed, now sat at the center of an invisible force that none could touch. The humans did not conquer, did not demand. They simply waited. And in their silence, the galaxy listened. Long ago, humanity vanished without warning, leaving behind silence where once there had been noise, movement, war, and invention. Their colonies, once bright dots across star maps, went dark, their signals fading, their ships no longer seen patrolling trade routes or answering distress calls. Many in the galaxy thought they had destroyed themselves, burned out by their own fire. The younger species believed the humans were just a myth told to keep them cautious. But the older races remembered. They remembered how humanity had risen from a single planet and, in less than 1,000 years, had challenged empires, broken blockades, and reached places others feared to go. They had no claws, no scales, no wings, and yet they had conquered with will, wit, and weapons that rewrote physics. Their enemies feared them, their allies respected them, and the neutral systems tried hard to stay out of their way. But then, just as quickly as they had risen, humanity disappeared. No war, no disease, no farewell message. Just silence. At first, their absence was celebrated in secret by those who had envied them. Planets that once paid tribute to Earth's diplomats refused to believe they were truly gone. Ships were sent to human worlds, only to find abandoned cities swallowed by plants or frozen under lifeless atmospheres. Their great warships drifted without power, their cores cold and hollow. Still, no one dared loot them. There was something sacred or cursed about what was left behind. Even in their silence, humans left behind a presence no one wanted to provoke. Centuries passed, and the galaxy moved on. New alliances formed, old powers fell, and the name of humanity began to fade from records, but not from memory. Some species kept quiet archives of human technology, whispering warnings to their young about the wrath of Earth. Some scientists devoted lifetimes to studying the fragments humans had left behind, trying to unlock their last secrets, only to discover encryption so deep that it responded with a silent self-destruction protocol. As if even in their absence, humans did not want their knowledge to be misused. Then one day, without warning, something changed. A beacon lit up in the center of the Malkaron Void, a region considered cursed and uncharted, where ships vanished and nothing returned. The beacon broadcast a signal clean, powerful, and unmistakably human. It was a single phrase repeated in ancient Terran standard, "We remember." Panic, curiosity, and fear spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The beacon's message was short, but it echoed in every corner of the known systems. Fleets scrambled, researchers were pulled from retirement, old war generals trembled. Because if humanity remembered, it meant they had never been gone. Only hidden. Ships were sent to the void, but most returned with strange reports of phantom signals, of shadows moving in the dark, of systems behaving like something was watching. And then, without warning, 3 border colonies from 3 different species went silent overnight. When scout ships arrived, they found the planets untouched, but every weapon system had been disarmed, every AI offline, every military leader unconscious in their quarters. No one had died, no cities were damaged, but it was a clear message: we are back, and we are watching. The Council of Species held an emergency summit. Paranoia spread. Was it really humanity? Or was it someone else pretending to be them? Could humans truly survive in hiding for centuries? Theories spread like fire. Some believed they had gone underground beneath their own planets. Others thought they had moved into another dimension, learning how to bend time. A few insane voices claimed humanity had merged with their machines and become something else entirely. But one thing was clear: whoever or whatever was behind the message had the power to break into any system without leaving a trace. And the technology was undeniably human. Then came the second message, broadcast in over 500 alien languages simultaneously, translated perfectly. We are not here for revenge. We are here to remind you. We never forget. This message was followed by the sudden activation of a long-dead satellite orbiting a neutral planet. The satellite displayed a hologram of a human child, holding an old Earth flag. She smiled and said, "We tried peace. We tried silence. You ignored both." Then she vanished. Within hours, dozens of hidden human listening posts came alive across the galaxy, once cloaked and thought lost. They began relaying ancient data records of betrayals, invasions, broken treaties, files that showed how, just before their disappearance, humanity had been cornered by a secret alliance of the major powers. The galaxy gasped as the truth was revealed. Humanity had not vanished. They had been hunted. And instead of fighting a war they could not win, they had vanished on purpose, gone underground, gone silent, preparing, watching. They had faked their own extinction and waited until the time was right to return. The guilt and fear that followed tore apart alliances. Old enemies accused each other. Empires collapsed under the weight of their exposed lies. Meanwhile, no human ships appeared, no diplomats came forward. Only the messages continued. Calm, patient, undeniable. And with each one, more systems bowed to the idea that Earth's children had become ghosts of justice. Not vengeful. Not cruel. Just prepared. Ready. A final message arrived one cycle later. It was short, direct, and final. You remembered us wrongly. Now you will remember us forever. After that, the signals stopped. No more colonies were touched. No more systems were hacked. But the silence this time felt different. It wasn't empty. It was full of presence. The galaxy had no choice but to remember humanity not as a past threat, not as a myth, but as a truth that lived in every dark shadow, every silent star, every whisper in deep space. Wherever they were, whatever they had become, humanity had made sure they would never be forgotten again.